What if I told you chewing gum was one decision away from never existing? From a failed project to a $26 billion industry, this product came to affect cultures, economies, and even your brain chemistry. But why do we crave this weird habit that offers no nutrition at all? I'll give you a hint. It involves an unemployed inventor, a Mexican general, and a soap salesman. To find out what's really behind this empty substance, we first gotta go back to the 1800s. Back then, chewing gum was around, but it wasn't popular like today. It was adopted by the Native American tradition of chewing tree resin because it would suppress thirst, hunger, and be a natural teeth cleaner. Even dentists started prescribing it for oral hygiene. Keep in mind that this gum was very bitter and sticky, so no one was too fond of it. But that was about to change when a man named Thomas Adams entered the picture. During the 1870s in Brooklyn, New York, Adams was unemployed as well as a failed inventor. He was desperately looking for a breakthrough. By some twist of fate, Adams ran into the 11-time Mexican president, General Antonio de Santa Anna. This general had been exiled from Mexico after being overthrown during a Mexican Revolution. Yet he still wished to regain power soon. That's when he devised a plan of making a fortune from selling tires made of a new material, chicle. Adams had never heard of it before, but the general went on to explain that it was a natural gum he brought from Mexico. It's so rare that it's not found anywhere in America. They only grow from the sapodilla tree deep in the Central American rainforests. Santa Anna's goal was to make a rubber substitute tire that could compete with the likes of Goodyear. If they could pull it off, the general could finance his political comeback and Adams could make his big break as a successful inventor. But after countless attempts, all that remained were piles of crumpled up prototypes. With cash running low, the general decided to pull the plug on the project and return to Mexico with nothing. Despite this, Adams still believed in it, so he persisted alone for months. Until one night, he discovered something revolutionary. Out of curiosity, Adams chewed the leftover chicle and instantly found what he was looking for. This wasn't a tire material, but instead, something else. Compared to tree resin gum, Adams observed that chicle was a far superior gum base. It held more flavor, felt smoother, and even had longer-lasting chewability. He knew he was sitting on a gold mine, so he perfected his chewing gum formula before selling it at a local drugstore. To his surprise, it sold out in hours. He later rebranded his gum to Adams Black Jack and introduced flavors like Natural Spearmint and Tutti Frutti. By the 1880s, he was selling 5 tons of gum per day. Adams' breakthrough in this untapped industry ignited a gold rush that would pull in many copycats. As the gum market got crowded with competition, demand slowly began dropping. Eventually, many companies' sales hit a ceiling. After all, people saw chewing gum as an occasional treat, nothing more. But everything changes when one man enters the industry and manipulates the public's perception of chewing gum forever. A 29-year-old entrepreneur by the name of William Wrigley Jr. moves to Chicago to work for his father's company selling soap. Over the next years, William became a talented salesman. But he quickly realized how little profit margin selling soap had. So he got creative by offering free baking powder with it. Surprisingly, the baking powder was more popular than his soap, so Wrigley switched to selling that instead. This time, he included 2 free packs of chewing gum with every can of baking powder he sold. Oddly enough, his customers liked the gum more than the baking powder. It became clear to him that chewing gum was a winning product, so he shifted his whole business around it. He quickly realized all his competitors were missing the biggest key to success. You see, the most important lesson Wrigley learned as a salesman was that the product was only as good as the advertising. Since no one in the market was utilizing that superpower, he would use it to his advantage. So, in 1893, he launched Wrigley's Juicy Fruit and Spearmint. What he does next paints his legacy as one of the most genius marketers in history. He knew chewing gum wasn't addictive, but it didn't need to be if he could somehow turn it into an irresistible habit. But to do that, he had to take his marketing to a whole other level. He started off small by appearing on billboards, newspapers, and magazines. His motto was, "Tell 'em quick, tell 'em often." The problem was, by 1907, the economy was in a crisis, and no one was spending money. As a result, the prices for everything began dropping, including advertising rates. Wrigley saw this crisis as an opportunity and planned the boldest move of his career. He wanted to mortgage everything he owned to spend $250,000 only in advertising. If it worked, his brand would be known everywhere. But if it didn't work, his company would go instantly bankrupt and he'd lose all his life savings. 3 years later, the economy recovered and Wrigley went from $170,000 in sales a year to a whopping $3 million. His gamble had paid off. On top of that, it was the perfect timing for what came next. When World War I started, the Wrigley brand had gotten so big that they even pitched the US government to buy their chewing gum for military rations. Wrigley explained that it would help improve soldiers' dental hygiene, reduce combat stress, and suppress their hunger. They were sold and agreed to buy. Through deployed soldiers overseas, this was the first time Wrigley's gum got spread worldwide. But William wasn't done. His aggressive expansion was only just beginning. He launched another campaign, sending free samples to everyone listed in the US phone books. They mailed a total of 1.5 million home addresses. Wrigley then designed the most effective strategy to sell his gum in every store. His product would only be placed at the cash register to make it an impulse buy for customers paying at the checkout. Wrigley became the biggest advertiser in America, which made the brand's popularity higher than ever before. His plan worked flawlessly. Everyone in America developed a compulsive habit of chewing gum regularly. By now, William Wrigley had become one of America's few billionaires, alongside Rockefeller and Carnegie. He later bought a hotel, the Chicago Cubs baseball team, and even a private island for $2 million. But what happened next was so devastating that it not only questioned the survival of Wrigley's business, but the entire gum industry. On January 26, 1932, William Wrigley Jr. passes away at the age of 70. His son, Philip Wrigley, assumes control of the family business, ensuring the continuity of his father's vision. But he had some big shoes to fill. On top of that, Philip would soon handle this billion-dollar empire during very turbulent times. World War II was in full swing, and instead of prioritizing sales back home, he reserved all the company's resources to helping the war effort. Despite not selling their gum back home, Wrigley continued to advertise it, which sounds counterintuitive and a waste of money. They launched the Remember This Rapper campaign to constantly remind civilians of the brand. Everyone was astonished by what happened once the war was over. Wrigley sacrificed short-term profits during the war, but built lasting brand loyalty instead. Once their gum returned home, the company recorded its highest sales in history, but it wouldn't last long. You see, all this manufacturing of chewing gum came at a price. Remember how the discovery of chicle led to mass production of chewing gum? Well, by now, the harvesting methods to get this limited chicle supply were very unsustainable. So much so that harvesters chopped down 25% of all sapodilla trees in Mexico. Scientists predicted this tree's extinction within 4 decades. So now, everyone was prohibited from cutting down these trees. This posed a serious problem to chewing gum companies. Their entire business revolved around this base ingredient, and now they have to replace it entirely. But they couldn't find other quality sources of gum, so they ended up using artificial bases, such as petrochemicals, wax, and plastic. It's so artificial that they don't need expiration dates. You're probably thinking, this can't be safe, right? Well, so did many scientists who performed studies on its health effects. They found that chewing gum had many benefits, such as improving short-term memory, increasing concentration, and reducing stress. Keep in mind, however, that very few of these studies were founded by gum companies, which may be biased and greatly exaggerated. Since no one could prove it had any dangerous side effects, the government allowed it to remain unrestricted. This news only exacerbated the manufacturing of chewing gum to be everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. It got to the point where it started frustrating people and even countries. In 1992, Singapore saw an increase in used gum stuck in all public spaces, so they banned the import and sale of all chewing gum. Not only would you get fined thousands of dollars, but you could even be jailed if caught littering. Other countries embraced it and developed it to come in many forms. Nowadays, there's chewing gum for everything, even to chew other chemicals like nicotine. If you thought this story was interesting, you're going to be blown away by this next one on the screen here that no one really knows about.